So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today on a webinar that will be discussing the next step on telehealth, especially for physical therapy. So, and here is why Kostas and I felt that this is a very important discussion to have, because everybody, when the whole situation with coronavirus happened, what happened? We were trying to identify ways to be able to cater to patients. And with all the rules, the people not being able to get out of their houses, in some places more than others, the social distancing rules, there was a significant problem with physical therapy practices filling up with patients, even if they were deemed essential services. So telehealth at that moment became one of the solutions. And there are some people who did establish telehealth the right way. There are some people who established it the wrong way. There are some people who thought about establishing telehealth, and when they told their staff members, their secretaries, their therapists, hey, call the patients and tell them that we are doing telehealth and schedule them for that. Secretaries started calling patients, and patients would say, no, we don't want telehealth. We want to come to your practice because we want to feel your hands on my shoulders, on my knees, on my back. So many of you, or some of you at that time, kind of saw that as a failure of the system, and you gave up on telehealth. I was speaking to some people who told me that, hey, yeah, I have 30%, 35% of my patients back, and we do 1 or 2 telehealth visits a week. So in our practice, with the methods that we have implemented, and I'm going to have Kostas talk to you a little bit more about that. At this point, we are in excess of 50% on our pre-COVID-19 numbers. We're kind of hovering between 52-ish, 50 to 55% right now. But a chunk of those visits, I would say about 30%, 35% maybe, they are telehealth visits.
Yes.
Now, why? Why are we paying particular attention to telehealth? There is a reason that is, there is a financial reason, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean with a financial reason. But also there is a reason that has to do with the future of the physical therapy profession. But before I talk to you about the future of the physical therapy profession, I just want to show you what I'm talking about. This is the slide that I'm going to show you right now. I have shown it in several occasions, but I cannot emphasize enough the meaning of that slide, because it is the essence of the practices that will make it and recover from COVID-19, and those practices that they will succumb, and there will be among the 10 to 15% of the practices who are going to shut down sooner or later, or they won't be able to recover. So practices that they don't implement specific mitigation strategies, they will have a very slow path to recovery. Practices that they will implement specific mitigation strategies, not only they will manage to recover faster, but they will be able in due time to even surpass their pre-COVID-19 numbers. In our situation, it is our projection that between our telehealth program and our diagnostic business, the electromyography, nerve conduction studies, MSK ultrasound that we do, that the combination of the telehealth business and the diagnostic business will propel us to have a 180% increase in our revenues within the next 8 to 12 months. The numbers I'm putting here, they're symbolic numbers. They are not true numbers. I used as a baseline 100,000, which you can be making it in a month, in a week, in a day, in an hour, I don't care. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about of growth that can surpass 180% of the pre-COVID-19 numbers if you follow the proper strategies. Now, let me go to the second part. Telehealth is here to stay. Do you see this? This is a cell phone, guys. This is a cell phone. And do you see this? This is a cordless phone. Do you know how many times I use this every day? I use this countless numbers a day. I don't know, 50, 100 or more. Do you know how many times I use this per week? Only the very few times that they call me from the gate, from the gated community to let me know that there is a food delivery or somebody coming to the house. Never use it, because this replaced this almost. And I'm not saying that telehealth will replace office visits. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that if we do not face the future, if we resist the progress, we are not going anywhere. Telehealth has very specific qualities that allows practices to experience borderless expansion, expansion without borders. Okay, so those practices that will really play this, they will understand the rules of the game, they will play the game properly, they will have chances to do extremely well. And this is why today we have brought with us a panel of people that we're going to have a discussion here. We might have some deck of slides, but we'll have also a discussion about the future of telehealth in the physical therapy profession and what you need to be doing right now to go to the next level of telehealth. Because telehealth 101, everybody has done it now. Some people passed it with good grades, some people were mediocre, some people failed the course. But right now we go to telehealth 102. All right, so this is what we're presenting you today. Before I go to introduce Daniel and Craig, let me just ask Kostas, my business partner, real quick. Kostas, can you give us a quick summary of numbers and successful actions?
Of course. Hello, everybody. So
can
yeah,
hear
you can hear me, guys, or no? Yes?
Oh, good.
Okay, we're good. So yeah, telehealth. Telehealth, something that, of course, everybody's aware now. Even patients are aware of telehealth and telemedicine. Everything is happening with that concept right now in one or the other way. It's been successful, of course, challenging at the beginning, but nevertheless, as Dimi said, everything in the beginning is challenging, but eventually, the more you do something, the better you become on it, and the easier it is for the therapist providing the telehealth process, and of course for the patient to be able to accommodate that new concept again, anything new has that learning curve, and we went through that. So, so this is out of the way now, and we have established the platforms, everything is working, and the patients are very happy. So in terms of numbers, as you said, 30% of our clients right now receive telemedicine, and this is our future for us. In a way, we see it as an expansion, also as a business expansion, because no matter what, that fear, unfortunately, the fear of COVID-19 is going to be around for a while. As you've heard already, that maybe in November it's going to be the second cycle of this, and it might come and go. Anyway, there is uncertainty, and when there is uncertainty, the only way to be able to survive is by planning with whatever you have. And telemedicine, it is a great tool for that reason. It gives you, with the right marketing, access to no borders in a way. You can be based in one state and you can treat anybody else, any other state. So it is really, there is some degree of magic there, because if you are able to utilize communication, because the key word in telemedicine, telephysical therapy, it is communication. If you know how to communicate with your patient, then it's going to be extremely successful what you do. And again, we're going to stick with that because we see it as a way out. Another way to establish TelePT, we want to establish right now, because again, due to COVID-19, flow of patients is very important. We don't want to crowd their office. So the idea is to bring them in, do initial evaluation, do all the diagnostic testing, give them like 3-4 treatments, even without any exercises, teach them, let them go home to do the exercises. Our goal is to keep them as little as possible inside the premises. And then after that, we can start, after the 3, 4, the 5th visit, we can start the telemedicine, TelePT, and then of course, have them come back after 2-3 weeks for reevaluation. So it is a hybrid model that we are working on right now. So again, it's gonna give the feeling to the patient that they can do things the right way without being exposed to anything that they feel uncomfortable with. That's the idea.
Awesome. Thank you, Costa. And let me just tell you that the way we managed to do what we have done in our business is with the help and support of 2 individuals that each of them from their specific post, from their specific, in their specific way, they helped us build the systems that we have in place right now to deliver successfully this telehealth product. And first of all, in the realm of education, in the realm of helping us build systems of processes, I would say, processes, that is Daniel Seidler, our very good friend, who has been in the forefront of this effort from the very beginning, and who helped us really establish the systems, and he'll be discussing with us tonight things that matter for the evolution of telehealth in physical therapy. And at the same time, when it came to putting together and establishing within our organization a robust platform that was able to really make a difference and help us being able to deliver the programs of telehealth the way that the way that it was reliable. It is Greg Peters with his amazing platform that is very stable and very expandable, and with features that look beyond the mere delivery of just the service. Greg offers even marketing type of services. So anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much for both of you joining us today. I'm going to start with Dan. Dan, tell us what is your viewpoint right now of what has worked, what hasn't worked with the establishment of telehealth in physical therapy, and where the future lies on?
What did you say? What has worked?
What has worked and what hasn't worked?
Well, what I see working the most effective thing is when a practice is very committed to telehealth, that they understand that it is part of their future, that it has to be part of their practice. You know, I tell my practices that they're going to need to be, in the long run, at least 20% remote. So at this point, the fact, like a practice like yourself, if you're 30% or more of your visits are telehealth, I think that that creates a culture where it's part of what you're doing. And everybody understands that. So what works is when the practitioners are engaged and they understand that they're doing real visits. They're not doing home exercise program reviews, right? So they're doing real visits, and that builds the confidence around everybody in the practice to say, I'm going to schedule you for a real visit with your therapist, with John, and he's going to do a real assessment. He's going to do real visits with you, and everybody understands that. So that's what I think is the most important thing, that there's a buy-in within the practice. That takes training, that takes education, takes understanding within the whole practice.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go to like the future of it. I'm going to jump on to Greg. From what have been some of the challenges in terms of what you have seen from your space in the area of telehealth and for physical therapy practices, and how therapists have overcome these challenges at this point?
Well, thanks for having me. And I'm very proud to be a graduate of Telehealth 101 from a technology perspective. So I think we're all headed in the right direction. So appreciate you guys including me on this evening's webinar. So I think right away, the challenges are connectivity, right? Everybody is fighting, bandwidth and devices. You can wave that landline, Demi, and you can wave your mobile phone, but I got to tell you that mobile phone is way more complex in its configuration than that landline. So it's really about the ability to educate folks, both patient and providers, about the challenges of connectivity, because most of the trouble is not the platforms, right? It's really about, is my camera on? Is my audio, does my audio work? Does my desktop support this? I think the challenges that we've seen have really just been around just simple education and knowledge transfer of how to facilitate a successful visit. And that's been first challenge. I think the second challenge is simply what we're talking about here. It's a commitment to something new, right? It's the commitment with the understanding and the expectation that you're not an expert at it. It's not perfect. It's not the be all end all. It's not going to replace everything that you do, and you have to embrace that. So having the patience to embrace technology, especially, and this new, or not new, but this new approach, right, to something that's going to be normal, in everyday life, especially is to treatment. So I think those two have been, on a day-to-day basis, is just continuing to encourage folks to stay with it, right? To work through the kinks, right? To work with someone like Dan about how to implement, a real program, and really viewing this as the future. This is a new norm. This is a new opportunity, right? And trying to take the positive out of something, and looking at it from the same perspective you'd look at any service offering you would add into your practice. It touches on your finance, it touches on your operations, it touches on your clinical direction. So treating it like a new business opportunity is also what we've been challenged by when we're speaking to folks. They just want to get going. Hey, how do I get this up and running? It's like, it's not like that. This is not simply turning a car on, right? There are things that have to be discussed and have to be thought through. So I hope that gives you some insight.
Yeah, Greg, definitely, and you, Dan, we all remember the days that both of you, actually all of us, we were in the middle of the panic of the crisis that everybody needed this and that. We're all handling like 6 phones at the same time to try to help people. Dan, there are a couple of, there's a deck that you have prepared to show us and share some information with us. Why don't we do that, and then we'll continue with the conversation a little bit more.
Sure. For the sake of time, I will eliminate my intro. If you want to learn about me, you can read it somewhere else. How about that? Even though I love to talk about myself, I won't do that here today. So we are talking about the new reality of healthcare. You know, I'm sure each of you has your gear for every time you walk outside, right? You have your gloves, you have your mask, maybe a hazmat suit. Are you ready to go to a restaurant? You ready to go to the barber, the dentist? So think of how your patients feel about coming to your practice, or at least some of them. There's definitely a sense that we really have to protect ourselves. So we as practice owners have to be prepared to offer a safe, super sanitary environment to our patients and clients, right? So all of that is doable. There's plenty of guidance out there. I'm sure you've done webinars, OSHA, CDC, APTA, PPS, your state, and great information out there. I encourage you all to follow all the guidelines and really create a safe environment that patients feel comfortable coming to. But there's always going to be patients who might not want to come into your office, right? And there's fear out there, legitimate or not. Maybe it's because they've seen the light and appreciate the convenience and effectiveness of telehealth care, you know, in the past few months. Oops, sorry. But what I'm doing is I'm preparing my clients for a reality where at least 20% of their practice is going to occur remotely. So 20%, right? Regardless of what you're doing now, 20% of your pre-COVID volume will need to be telehealth a year from now. Many of my practices are way above that because the majority of their practice is remote, and they're learning how to weave that into in-office now, right? Several practices have told me, and you know, Dimi and I talked about this, possibly being 40 to 50% telehealth, right? And these practices appreciate the effectiveness, the efficiencies, and opportunities of telehealth. They're not closing their physical doors, right? But they will see, and they will see their patients more sparingly in the office. And I think we all have to think about that kind of model. So I also work with some practices that they're just going 100% telehealth. New practice, telehealth only. They're building an entire practice around treating patients in multiple states via telehealth. So watch out. If you're not doing it, they're coming for your patients, and they'll take them if you're not up to the highest standard. And you know, one thing Greg touched on was connectivity. Connectivity is extremely important. I think it's the most important component of any platform, that you have that reliable connectivity. If you don't, you're gonna lose your telehealth patients. They're either not gonna do visits with you, or they're gonna go to somebody else who's more reliable. It can be really frustrating. I'm sure we've all experienced it to some extent, and sort of that. You know, we've had a little bit of leeway, I think, up to this point. I think patients have accepted that this is the first inning, or it's been the first couple of innings. Now the standard is going to be raised, right? You're going to have to step up your game, and that includes just like you have a really presentable, beautiful office. You know, you paint your office once a year, you get your carpets clean, you want it to be super professional. You're gonna have to do the same thing with your telehealth game. Okay, it's not necessarily about a beautiful background or anything, but it is about having a professional appearance and a professional approach. So let's see, each level now to get buy-in, it's super important that you have buy-in within your practice, right? So each level of your organization needs to be on board with the understanding that telehealth is a significant part of your practice. Every patient or intake is a potential telehealth patient, and it needs to be a part of your conversations with them and their conversations with patients in the office. So everybody within your practice needs to understand that telehealth is a part of your practice. It's just the same as room number 2 down the hall. All right, you're going to be seeing patients by telehealth, and it's a part of the model that you're going to use. Now, in order to get the message out, you're going to want to incorporate telehealth into all your marketing materials. I recommend that you find doctors in your area who do telehealth, because their patients are going to be more likely to do telehealth visits with you. So also put links on your website to schedule telehealth visits and offer convenience of next day or same day evaluations. You could do that now. That's pretty hard to do in a physical environment, but with telehealth, it's much more streamlined. Create those efficiencies, make it easy for patients to schedule that day or the next day. Other marketing ideas are to add videos of telehealth visits with consent, of course, from your patient to your website and offer how-to webinars for doctors and patients. So, like Greg said, one thing, the technology component is sort of, that's one of the roadblocks for a lot of practices. I see it all the time, particularly now that Medicare has allowed us to see Medicare patients for telehealth. A lot of practices have called me up and said, look, my elderly patients don't want to do telehealth. They don't know how to turn their phone on. They're afraid to do it. We need to teach them. It's a new thing. This is something new to them. So we need to teach them that has to be part of your marketing platform, that you are actually doing. And, there's all kinds of methods to educate your patients, but I recommend doing webinars where you basically, 10 patients who have said, I'm not doing telehealth, it's too scary. Get them on a Thursday night webinar, something like this, and you go through a training program. Just do a real simple, make it look easy for them, okay? Get them and in that call or in that Zoom meeting, have somebody who is one of their peers, have a patient who's had success with you, and demonstrating to them how easy it was, how effective it was, all that. All right. So you want to increase patients' comfort with telehealth. That's basically what that's about, right? So it's an audio video medium, as we know, right? So use the same medium to show your patients and referral sources what you're capable of. Show off a little bit, show them how it works, show them how good you are at it. You can also expand your reach beyond, this is what I think Dimi was saying, or Kostas was saying, you can expand your reach beyond your local area, within your state, beyond that. If you want to do interstate, get a couple of your PTs licensed in other states, or if you're in a compact state, even better. There's 20 states in the compact where they can automatically be seeing patients in other states by being part of the compact. So the most important thing, as from a clinical point of view, is effective care, right? And there definitely was resistance at the beginning for PTs getting into telehealth, and still, I think PTs still shy away a little bit. They feel like they're shortchanging their patients in some ways. But think about what we offer, right? Our value is in our knowledge, problem-solving skills, compassion, and communication. And of that communication, there's verbal, visual, and tactile. What are you taking out of that equation? You're taking the tactile. You could argue that's a pretty significant part of PT, but you are still providing so much value to your patients in addition to all the other value associated with telehealth, the convenience and all the other things. So, I don't want to harp on that too much. I think most people on this call understand that what we're doing is effective, but that has to be part of your talking points, though. You have to be communicating that to your patients. They need to understand, and your office staff needs to understand, so that they can communicate it. They're the people who really, they make things happen in your office, right? So up until now, it's been, oh yeah, so thumbs up. And if you can get that right, your patients will be happy, right? So up until now, it's been kind of a wild west in telehealth. And that's still kind of going on. HIPAA regulations are relaxed and all of that, but you don't have to necessarily abide by the strict guidelines for telehealth, right? But this isn't going to last forever. So maybe till the end of the year, maybe. So we all need to get our house in order, get our telehealth program organized, and document everything. All right. And of course, be on a HIPAA compliant platform. So if your telehealth program is audited right now, are you prepared to comply with federal, state, and local telehealth regulations? Do you even know what they are? Are you following best practices to maximize the return, your ROI of your telehealth program? Are your forms and documentation compliant? These questions you need to answer, right? And are you billing and coding appropriately and effectively? And this is something Demi asked me about. You know, are we going to talk about coding and billing? Are you billing effectively? Are you getting the same amount for your visits as you were in office? Because in most states, you should be. Most payers, most states, there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting paid if you're doing the same amount, the same visits or the same treatments that you were doing before, right? Minus the manual, and maybe replacing that with more functional activities or more therapeutic activities or more education. You should be getting paid the same amount per visit as you were in office. So last part, here's my shameless plug for our policy and procedures manual. And if you use the coupon DIMI, D-I-M-I, you get 10% off the listed price. And it covers the topics above for anyone looking to build their telehealth practice on their own. And if you work with me as a consultant, we get deeper into that. I'll give you other discounts, all these other things. Point is, you need a documented telehealth policy and procedure manual for the future of your practice. And this one's customized for your practice. You don't have to buy mine, but you definitely need to have one. Document what you're doing. It needs to, because it is a different way of doing things, right? And it needs to be documented for legal purposes. And there are some risks associated with telehealth that, you know, I'm sure you've read about, and you need to be documenting those things and make sure that you're doing things the right way. So when you talk to your payers, I don't want to get too much into this. I think we all know what we need to do to get to bill appropriately and get everything authorized, right? But I do want to mention that I think telehealth and this moment is going to lead to some changes. I mean, a lot of things have been talked about for value-based care over the years. I'm hearing more and more about it. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing the same things or reading the same things, but I think some of the value-based models are going to make more sense with the involvement of telehealth. And I think that particularly for telehealth, I think it's going to, and for physical therapy, it's going to make more sense to be involved in bundled care and value-based care models. So I encourage you to seek out opportunities for CJR and bundled payment models of reimbursement. All right. So with your telehealth practice, you've created a streamlined delivery model in your practice, right? So with telehealth and other efficiencies, you're going to be getting patients better in a much less costly manner, right? So we're learning that a post-op total knee replacement patient doesn't need to come into our office 3 times a week for 90 minutes. But if they come in once and we see them virtually for another 3 to 4 times a week for 15 minutes, we're actually engaging with them more consistently, more effectively, and saving them time and effort and getting them better just as fast with less time spent. So it's to our advantage to subscribe to certain bundled payment models. So seek those out. All right. So I'm not saying give away the house, you know, don't take $200 for the entire care of a patient. But if you can speak with your payers and find programs in local hospitals or local surgery groups where there is a bundled care payment option, you know, negotiate a good rate and figure out how it's going to work for you. In addition, the practices out there who are doing cash models, instead of charging a patient $150 a visit, maybe figure out a model how it's going to work for you in terms of, so one idea being like, you do exactly what I just said, 1 in-office visit, 3 telehealth visits, and you charge a flat fee for that for a month or for the entire span of their total knee replacement care. Okay, now you have that patient locked in and they understand what their cost is up front. Just a really efficient way for both sides to work. So the other opportunities I see, group programs, I think are great. Telehealth is so good for this, where say you get 10 people in a group exercise program, like your chronic pain, Parkinson's patients, Medicare pays $21 for a 97150. It's an untimed code. So let's say you do 30 minutes, right? 10 people on a call for 30 minutes, $210. That works for me, right? Telehealth sessions are also great for subscription packages that you practice. I mentioned that. Combine one in-office, 1 remote visit per week with a flat monthly fee. That's just one idea. Perfect for busy patients or clients, right? And you can also add store and forward services to one of those packages, things like ergonomic assessments, bike fittings, running assessments, gait assessments. And I have a whole line of store and forward options that increase efficiencies even further. So retail is on here. I'm going to leave that one for Dimi. I know he's been talking about that, and I like that idea. Remember, at least 20% of your practice needs to be remote, maybe more. We're not going back to the way things were, but there's a bright future ahead of us, and telehealth is definitely going to be a part of it. So that's my presentation. I'm here to answer questions, and I hope I answered already a few or brought up some other questions.
Thank you, Dan. And we'll go to get a couple of questions because I got a couple of them both here, mostly on Facebook, and I'm going to go over. And before also, Greg, we jump to you. I just want to address something that some people are asking because one of our companies, one of our organizations that is Hands-On Seminars, it does offer an introductory course on telehealth. So people are asking me, okay, what is the difference to the service that Dan Seidler is offering to what the Hands-On Seminars is offering? The Hands-On Seminars product is a very basic introductory product that does not teach you the processes that you have to implement for a successful service. It is more of a clinical type, introductory clinical training. What Dan does, which of course Dan, he did also our establishment of telehealth for our organization, he goes through the entire process of how to establish the program, how to run it, and how to expand the program. So it is a very comprehensive, I keep saying his program is like a boutique type of program. At the same time, it's a very necessary program. I believe for the entire implementation of telehealth, including the business aspect of it. Now, I'll give you some news. Hands-On Seminars, yes, has that introductory course, but you can go right now to physiomasterclass.com and you can fill out your information, fill out the quick form with your name and email address, and you will get information very soon about a major classes that Kostas and I and other associates of ours, masters in the area of physical therapy, will be delivering in a virtual environment very valuable courses that will be taking place only about 6 hours, and they will be delivered internationally. And these courses will be addressing clinical components of implementation of therapeutic procedures for a telehealth environment, a hybrid environment, and the in-clinic environment. This is, of course, an extension of what Hands-On Seminars is offering right now, but physiomasterclass.com will become a very relevant answer to upcoming expansions in the area of the telehealth space, as well as the hybrid space in terms of the clinical delivery, the clinical application. Greg, quick question for you, and then I'm going to ask a question to Dan. Right now, from a technology point of view, are we looking at anything different in the future? At this point, for example, okay, I do know of people who are delivering telehealth through FaceTime, okay? And although this is, or they are delivering it in a non-HIPAA compliant Zoom platform, all right? So this is something that are able to do right now, but what's going to happen in a couple of months from now, and how they can be prepared to place their telehealth business in a reliable HIPAA compliant environment that can be expandable and expandable.
Well, I'm gonna jump in on that one. So I think, look, that is normal. I think that's a fear that's people's reaction in fear. Give me something quick. Let me get in front of my patients and let me get going. And I think it's a very short-sighted. And I think the challenge that people in that category will face is at some point that changes and they have to go on to a HIPAA compliant platform. They have to find something that's scalable. So now they've spent all this time and energy trying to get adoption in telehealth. And now they have to go back and reevaluate a platform, which means they have to retrain patients and providers on what the experience is going to be. And they have to remanage and repurpose the expectations of both parties. That's a huge challenge. So you basically end up, let's say it scales, but then you have to actually stop scaling and go back to the drawing board. And that's what we're seeing a ton of. And, that's one of the reasons why when we launched our Better Telehealth, people say, well, why isn't free? I go, it's because free is not scalable and it's not sustainable. And so I never wanted to be, and our company never wanted to be that essentially the catalyst to ultimately a disaster, right? Is starting over again. And so we really took the stance of evaluate technology by security first and foremost. Secondly is scalability. Third is, does it have an operations component that can fit into your business that's going to allow you to scale, right? Does it give you all the information that you need in order to scale? And then I think the most important and most compelling value prop that we've identified is find a transactional technology partner or platform, right? Because we've just all outlaid the success of telemedicine in a practice has to do with commitment and it has to do with teaching and education. Well, as a true technology partner, I believe everybody's our patient, right? Everyone's our provider. So to be aligned with our providers, well, we want to make sure that you are also committed to it. And we're committed to that from a pricing standpoint. And I think that sets technology partners apart from just the traditional subscription model, which all of us have been exhausted by, right? So I think if you want to go back to your original question, well, people that jumped on FaceTime, people that jumped on non-HIPAA compliant Zoom, at some point, the piper comes calling and now you have to start over. And what are you going to be prepared to do? And what does that signal to your patients that you don't pay attention to details, right? That you're not thinking of the future. And I think that's a real concern. I see a lot of folks going down that path.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Quick question, Dan. People are asking what states are compact states. Look, I don't think any of us has memorized that.
That's right.
But a simple Google can get you that answer.
ptcompact.org.
Yeah.
ptcompact.org is the website, and there is a map on the page that shows which the compact states are, which states have bills to be compact states, where they have legislation to go moving forward to become compact states, and then which states are not doing anything associated with compact yet.
Yeah. And this is something that will be changing. There are already updates that things will be moved into more and more states will be participating.
For sure.
And it's a necessity. It's a necessity. But I want to show you, I'm going to share real quick with you guys our own website. This is our own website, okay? I just want to show you a couple of features. Physically, as you guys know, we are in New York and we have a satellite office in Maryland. If you go under telehealth, of course, you can see that people can request TelePT here. I'm going to show that to you. But under our telehealth information here, right, very prominently, you're going to see that we are delivering services in New York, New Jersey, Florida, Pennsylvania, and the state of Maryland. Very prominently and highlighted here. We have providers who are licensed and can deliver services in these states. So what happens here is that when someone requests appointment, we take them right away into the Better PT platform, where all of their information is captured very properly, and the therapist can deliver directly from the platform the treatment in a very reliable capacity. Also, what we love is the fact that the platform, which I understand, Greg, I don't know why he doesn't mention that. For me, it's a big plus. I hear the HIPAA, I hear all that stuff, but for me, the fact that there is an optional component of marketing, that is a big plus. So for us, it's a great thing. At the same time, something that we have implemented is very quickly patients who are cash-based patients, they can go into pay my bill and just pay immediately whatever amount of money or packages for their telehealth visits if they have no insurance. And now the therapist directs the patient into our online store for the patient to be able to buy specific products that they can use in their telehealth visit. We have our shoulder-free movement package, our knee power-up package, the back pain eliminator package. What else we got here? We got the hip flexibility, the ankle standing strong package, the neck pain relief, the elbow strength package, hand and wrist dexterity, and balance success, and so on and so forth. So these are things that can enhance a program and make it really more robust. But Kostas, a point that you have been making also to our staff, I know from the training, is the thing that you say, like, okay, when somebody comes to the office, they can see how clean the office is, how great equipment we have, and this and that. But in a telehealth environment, there are other things that matter. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, that's a very interesting concept. Actually struck me when I realized it myself, because, through the years, if you care about your practice, you beautify it and you put the new color and the new furnitures and all these beautiful things. And now all of a sudden that doesn't really matter. Any reviews you have, it doesn't matter. It is you, a screen, and the other person that you gotta hold the phone and you're like, okay, move back a bit. No, to the right. No, you turn around. And it's that frustration that you gotta have the ability, again, as I said before, to communicate the patients, of course, and the ability to use communication, the right wording, to really be with them and help them out. As with everything else, there is a degree of learning there, so that's the learning curve. But again, the only thing that you have there, it's communication, guys, nothing else, because you can make or break that relationship so easily the minute you don't have other variables to really beautify who you are, like the beautiful guy or girl in the front desk, the very laughing and charming aide. All these items are very important in a live visit, right? Extremely important, the cleaning space. But again, TelePT, it doesn't matter. So communication is very important. That's something that all therapists, of course, are great communicators. Most of us, we are, because it's part of what we do. And it's interesting, I just received an email this morning, I'm sure you did also, from the PT in Motion News, from APTA, and they did a survey to 6,500 PTs and PTAs. And one of the items that they figured out is that, before COVID-19, no one, or very, very few, extremely few people used to do telemedicine, TelePT. And now 50% of those PTs, they do TelePT. And again, not all of them, they've been rehired. Some of them are furloughed, are still waiting to go back back to work. But 50% of those PTs and PTAs, they do TelePT right now nationwide.
Sorry, I keep speaking, but I'm on mute. Okay, which is pretty amazing, and it will only keep expanding. Okay, last a couple of pieces of advice or anything. Greg, let's start with you. Anything you would like to share with the people tonight before we close?
I think the thing I'd like to share is when you're, and I'm going to keep myself in my technology box, is that when you are evaluating technologies, think about the future. Will they integrate into your EMR, right? So we all are tied to EMRs, right? The electronic health record software. We have to use them. But the future of telemedicine, as we've all decided in TelePT 102, is that it's the future. And it's part of our norm. And so you have to evaluate technology as it relates to being interoperable into the EMRs, because that's going to be really the future. The second part is we've talked a lot about communication. Evaluate platforms and what their future is for communication. Will I be able to collect payment through a platform? Will I be able to have chat through a platform that will allow intake forms to be done? Will allow me to essentially communicate with my patient real time to collect the information and find the opportunities to do a better job. And also think about what the future could be if you had no front desk, right? If you didn't have the beautiful woman and the beautiful guy standing there saying, hey, how can I help you? That is going to be part of how people evaluate going back to business. So what technology company will you bet on to solve that problem? And I encourage you all to think about. So again, check out Better PT. I'll give myself a, we've been really focused in this industry. We love the industry, but we've put so much modern technology into the hands of, I think, the best providers in the world. And also, too, we're meeting patients where they are, which is the future of technology. So thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Dan, last couple of words from you.
Sure, thank you. And thanks, Dimi, and thank you, Kostas, for having me on today. I really appreciate the platform. I think Greg's also being a little humble about what he's saying about his company. One thing that I think is so great about them, and I think it's super important in this space, is that we're sort of transitioning to this increased use of technology in a very human environment. What we do is about care and connecting with patients, and companies like Better PT, and they're not the only platform that does this, but they do it really well, is their platform allows us to connect so easily with patients. And on the other side, their customer service is so great. I mean, I'm a consultant, and I recommend several platforms to my clients. I have clients using multiple or different platforms. And Better PT is one of them that just provides, first of all, because they're so PT facing, they understand the plight of the PT and a lot of the things that we deal with on a regular basis, particularly practice owners, because that's almost all that they deal with. So they understand what we're doing, and make that whole experience much easier for the user. And I think that's super important. Us as PTs getting into technology, it's not really our wheelhouse. And to work with a company that understands that and makes it easier for us, I think that's super important. Like I said, Better PT is not the only one, but they're one of the better ones at the customer service on the PT side. The other thing is, that's what I do. Okay. As a consultant, I interface between the technology and the practitioner. I understand from my experiences long ago, first getting into telehealth, that most technology companies don't really understand how PT practice works, right? And most PTs they're not IT guys. We're not really fix-it people. We're not techie. So, I help to bridge that gap. I think that's super important. And if you're not doing that, if you're not facilitating with your staff and with your patients and with your referral sources, then you're going to have a really hard time with telehealth. So it's super important that you have processes in place to bridge that gap. TelepTsolutions.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Costa, last few words from you.
No, I want to thank Dan and Greg for their help here because, again, when
you.
we started, we had no idea how to handle it. We were like freaking out, and I had to make sure that everybody in my office would be able to do that. Anyway, it was a big, interesting 2 weeks of trying to implement it. But at the end, again, Greg and Dan, they've done awesome job with us, and thank you for your help to something totally new. Okay, thank you. Jimmy, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. And thank you, Dan and Costas and Greg. Thank you guys for tonight's presentation. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we have our weekly town hall meeting. If you go right now to savephysicaltherapy.com, you'll be able to register if you don't have an ongoing registration. For you to attend tomorrow's meeting, it's going to be very interesting. We're going to give you a ton of updates. Some of these updates will only save you money, actually. So anyway, thank you guys all for attending tonight, and see you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at our town hall meeting. Good night.
Good night.
Great.